Mr. Speaker.
Sithandaze. Mighty God, for you have called us to govern this province. We ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and will promote the interests of the people. On magtige God, ons bid dat u gedrende ons vergaderings. Ons dien odege wysheid sal gee en ons motief sewer sal hou. En dat u ons sal help om ons tekortkomenge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikelela Nkosi ilizwe lethu nabantu balo. Umisele Nkosi ukulunga kwiphondo lethu. Nkosi sikelela iAfrika. Gcina abantwana bayo. Khokhela Nkosi inkokheli zayo. Inike uxolo Nkosi iAfrika. All this we beg in your most holy name. Amen. You may all be seated. Order, honorable members, Your Excellency, the Premier of the Western Cape Province, the leaders of political parties, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We are in a hybrid session. As you all know, the hybrid sessions, we are now experts as this parliament because since the beginning of COVID-19 in 2020, we have on record succeeded in hosting our session. So I want to request the honorable members to remain circumspect of the instruments that guide these hybrid sessions. The honorable members were connected virtually, and those honorable members who are here with me in the chamber, that if you are here in the chamber, please do not connect to the session virtually. Leave your electronic device because you're already here in the meeting. But for the honorable members who are connected virtually, please, if you have any point that you want to raise, you want to participate in one form or the other, kindly indicate by a show of hand using your device, failing which you must indicate in the chat room. You will be recognized by the presiding officer. I also need to implore those who join us, like the members of the media, you are welcome to be here with us, but kindly observe the rules of this house that if you are a guest, you do not participate in the proceedings. Therefore, do not activate your microphone. Do not activate your microphone and do not activate your camera. You are here as a guest and we really appreciate having guests in this parliament, but you do not participate. I also need to indicate to the honorable members, translation services are available on all 4 official languages in this province. You know, the sign language is also there. and it's been there all the time, but equally all other three languages are there. I'm going to request at this point that the honorable members, in terms of the order paper, I will ask the Chief Whip to rise. I recognize the Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that notwithstanding provisions of Rule 21, precedence be given to the questions to the Premier without notice. And then secondly, also, in regard to the question posed to Minister Mania, that question stands over to the next sitting. The member who has posed the question has been informed that the Minister is not in the House due to ill health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chief Whip. That was your debate address to the House as the Chief Whip. Honorable members, please join me in congratulating Honorable Lorraine Porter as the Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance. Congratulations, man. Honourable members, in terms of the list before me, I've got the following members. Let me just request the members, is there any objection to the motion raised by the Chief Whip? No objection, agreed to. I've got Honourable Brencase, Honourable Kama, Honourable Mackenzie, Honourable August, Christians, Honourable Plato, Honourable Murray. In that order, you know that you have two follow-ups, honourable members, and I would like to request that the follow-ups be linked to the original question or to the response by the Honourable Premier. In that way, we'll be consistent with the rules. I recognize the Honourable Member Brencase.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Honorable Premier, of course, you are aware of the increasing crime rate in the province. And I'm specifically referring to the recent abductions of women, young girls, children on the Cape Flats. The increasing abuse of women and children and other criminal activities such as gangsterism, drug
Okay, it's not your own sir. There is a let's check the ICT. What are the risks there? Are you sorting that? Let us try again, Honorable Brencase.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Honorable Premier, we are aware of other toll-free crime stop numbers and helplines for gender-based violence, but these are not very effective. What we need is a hotline. What we need is a hotline where a woman can phone for help in cases of abuse, and this hotline must be backed up with an immediate armed response. Honorable Premier, will you establish such a much needed hotline with strong armed response to the woman's call for help? An armed response, Premier, an armed response that is better than our army. No other Premier has done this before. It will leave you a great legacy, Honorable Premier. And I will make a special dua. I will make a special dua for you if you do this. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Brencase. I recognize the Premier.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and to the Honourable Brencase. I want to thank him. I suppose it was a question, and I think, on the face of it, I think being responsive is one of the values of our government. I think that sounds like a good suggestion. Obviously, then my brain goes to how would we implement it across the length and breadth of this province. But it also brings me to the launch of our safety dashboard today. And perhaps what we need to do is align it to that dashboard, so at least in the hotspots, we create some kind of reaction. I must say that gender-based violence, especially for me, is in a new kind of area in my thinking because of what I've had to deal with personally in the last while. So I think it's a good suggestion, and I will definitely take that suggestion, engage with the Minister Regan Allen, and say, what is it that we can do? Because I think we really need to look at how we innovate, how we show the citizens of this province that we care, especially, you spoke about general crime, you spoke about abduction. Quite frankly, I think the Pink Ladies system, I must give them credit, how their system is really innovative and works so well. But we need to learn, we need to innovate, we need to be reactive, and I take that on board absolutely, and we will engage on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. Any follow-ups?
Thank you, Speaker. No follow-ups. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Brancase. I'm going to ask some help here of my chairperson, temporary chairperson. Are you able to help there, please? Honorable members, I now recognize Honorable Kama.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. To the Honorable Premier, through you, Honorable Speaker. I think in November 2020, the South African Police and the eThekwini municipality launched the Integrated Safer Cities concept, which was a new crime fighting initiative to strengthen efforts to fight crime in cities. The Safer City model is also a form of cooperation across all spheres of government, business, the NGO sector, and community-based structures in the fight against crime. And that was meant to be piloted around 10 municipalities in the country. I therefore want to ask the Premier, Honorable Chair, that in line with the commitment he would have made on a number of occasions in this House, and the assurances that his government would explore any viable strategies in its integrated approach to fight crime. And given the picture, which I think Member Brancase would have partly covered, and in particular now in violent crimes in the city of Cape Town, I want to understand from the Premier what will be the benefits of a successful implementation of this integrated approach of the Safer City model across spheres in the province. Thank you very much.
Said on a point of order.
I rise on a point of order, Honorable Chair of the session, and my greetings to you. I am apologizing for interrupting the response that the Premier would be giving to the good question posed by Honorable Kama. But I've just noticed very early in the sitting, I mean, normally when the chair of the session leaves the chamber, it's after an hour or half an hour. Here, just after one question, the speaker has left and you are chairing the session. It is a bit unusual. Even members of the public will find it unusual. I'd like to know, is there a reason perhaps as to why the speaker has left, and will the speaker be returning? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Sayed. That is not a point of order. Premier, please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair, and to the Honourable Kama.
Sorry, Honorable Sayed, I have ruled on that matter.
Yeah, but surely we must at least be given some rationale as to what is behind this.
It is not a point of order. You are only allowed to raise points of order, Honorable Sayed, but you are welcome to use other means. You can follow the speaker if you want to engage with him. Thank you, Honorable Premier.
Imagine that one could have an urgent body break, but thank you very much.
Point of order.
Is it Honorable Brancase? Sorry, online?
It's Member Dugmore, Chairperson.
Is that a point of order?
Yes.
Please raise your point of order.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I know that the matter of the Premier's absence in the House after he's finished these questions has been raised in this House. But what I want to ask you is if you could please have my objection noted. All of us know that we have sessions of the legislature. And even though the legislature and the matter has been discussed at the programming committee, I think it's unacceptable.
Well, Doug
I
Moore.
believe it is unacceptable for the Premier not to be present in the House, and this is contributing to the fact that there's chaos, both in his government as well as in this legislature. So could you please, I just want my concern registered and minuted in this meeting.
Thank you. Honorable Doug Moore, please, there is also the rule of anticipation. The Premier is still here, so please, that's not a point of order. Premier, please proceed.
Order, Chair.
Is that a point of order?
Yes, I raised I switch on my mic before you put, and my order is based on Khalid Sayed when asked about, and in your response, Chairperson said you can follow him. I would like to understand whether what you just said to Honourable Sayed was parliamentary, and are you perhaps chasing him out?
No. The answer is no. Please, Premier, proceed. No. Please take your seat. Thank you. Thank you, Premier. Sorry, the Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, House Chair. I'm just reminding my colleagues on the opposite end of Rule 66D, if they can go and read it. You have rule. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Sustained, Premier.
So the Speaker has been chased out.
I didn't see a hand being raised. Say it.
Chair, just to indicate, and I want to add on from the Honourable Lecker, there's no precedent for a member to be taken out of the House to follow the Speaker. Just to put that, no intention to go and follow the Speaker. What I want to know, because we've seen what was out there in the media, the Speaker had his own press conference.
Honourable Sayed.
Question on the Premier. So I mean, really, the public needs to know.
Honourable Sayed, only allow raise points of order, which you have not
Speaker.
done. Thank you.
Chair. There's a strange noise coming out from the chambers. We can't hear clearly.
Thank you, Honourable Maran. We'll ask ICT to attend to that. Thank you, Premier. You know that you're not allowed to raise on repetitive points of order?
No, I'm raising an order based on what the Chief Whip of the DA has just said.
Yes.
Thank you. The Chief Whip has raised saying you may not be considered if the presiding officer read the rule on the matter in the same city. Now, you did not rule on the fact that you were chasing Honourable Sayed on that aspect. Now, I would want you to rule on the order that I have raised to you and not what the Chief Whip of the DA has just alluded to, because it has no grounds on what I have raised.
Thank you, Honourable Lecker. Please don't read things which aren't there. And I have sustained the Chief Whip's point of order. Thank you. Premier, please rise.
Are you sustaining it, Chairperson?
On grounds of the rules. Sorry.
My point of order on you. So what rule are you sustaining that one?
Whip of the opposition, I did rule and I ruled you out of order. Please take your seat.
No, but you clearly do not understand the rules book. And I would advise you to go and familiarize yourself with the rules book.
Thank you. You're welcome to refer this matter to the Speaker. Thank you. Afterwards. Premier. Thank you. Premier.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the Honourable Kama. And the question that he raised is a very, very serious issue. It is about safety in our province, safety in our country. It is something that we take really seriously. That's why we have the safety plan. And what he's talking about is safer cities. And of course, even when I was the MEC in that position, that was when the first discussions were around safer cities. We took part in those discussions. Obviously, right now, I'm not in those discussions any further, but I know that the city is still involved in those discussions. And of course, as far as the safety plan goes, and as far as every comment you hear from Minister Allen, it is how we can, number one, work with the South African Police Services to make sure we build a safer society. We are absolutely committed to that. But we are also committed to making sure that we hold SAPS to account. And I would like to familiarize the Honourable Kama with a meeting that we had not so long ago, where we said, please, we actually need even the opposition parties' help here. We need to make sure we get resources allocated specifically to those areas that are the hardest hit, where crime is the highest, where the murder rate is the highest. And I think of late, unbelievable as to what's happening and what our citizens have to go through right now. I mean, it is just beyond comprehension how people have to live with crime the way that it is in our society. Speaker, you know that if I think about what citizens live with right now, these are the kind of messages I get in the middle of the night. If you listen to the gunfire, it is not even just gunfire. This is automatic gunfire that is in our communities. This is how bad crime is. And I promise you, I had a public meeting at a school.
And then they flew into the classes. Any child goes into any class now because our gangster friends on the border of our school are busy shooting blindly.
These are the kind of messages that we get from teachers who are trying to protect our school children, who are running into the class because of shooting happening in the street outside the school. This is unacceptable. We cannot live in a society like that. So what the Honourable Kama is raising is absolutely critical. How do we get more resources allocated to areas that the crime is out of control? Imagine what that is doing to the minds of those young learners in our province. What is being entrenched in their psyche? Are we setting them up for failure into the future? I say we are. It is unacceptable that these are the levels of crime, of violence. 6 people shot in Manenberg just the other day, 3 people in Mitchell's Plain, 5 people in Khayelitsha. This happens day after day after day. And absolutely, we've got to find solutions. I still believe that it should be devolution of power. I agree that the minister should be fired. Minister Becky Cele has done nothing for fighting crime in the last years for this province. It is unacceptable. We should be able to find ways that make it safer. Now, that's why we put the safety plan in place. Today, we launched an amazing dashboard. A dashboard that shows how we are going to use evidence in deployment. Those of you who haven't seen it, please go and have a look at the YouTube or the Facebook social video of that technology that our health department is putting together with our community safety department and how we are bringing that data together to manage. Now imagine, instead of having a crime statistics history lesson that the Minister of Police is going to give us next time in Parliament, or next time he releases the historical crime statistics, that we could get real-time data like our dashboard is building. Then we can start to deploy beforehand. That's why Minister Regan Allen can say that in Kraaifontein, 40.5% decrease in criminal activity. That's why the minister can say that Nyanga is no longer the murder capital of South Africa, because we are deploying on an evidence base, using our data cleverly. And of course, now we've got to get in with the violence prevention programs and really start to take that so that those young boys are actually got, before they end up going into the gangs, they need to stay in school so that they become the risk taker in the economy, the entrepreneurs of the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Kama. Before you get an opportunity for first follow-up, I see there's a hand raised by Honourable Nkamba Botya. Is that on a point of order? Because the first follow-up question belongs to the original questioner. Honourable Nkamba Botja, you seem to be muted. Can we proceed to the first follow-up question? Over to you, Honourable Kama.
No, thank you very much, Honourable House Chair. The frustration now what that one has is that if the Premier had not planned to showcase, maybe we would have received a response that speaks to the question that we asked than the grandstanding about what we know, because we live in those communities. But what I want to check, because the Premier says, Honourable Chair, that he is aware, because since when he was an MEC, the talks about the safer city model were there, and that is aware the city is continuing to engage. And now, because all these things, what we're trying to get is a response to the crime that is happening. We understand all what is happening, the gunshots that are there. And now there is this issue of the safer city model, and which seeks to bring all these spheres of government and the particular sectors that we've been talking about. Now, I want to understand, because we're aware that in the city of Cape Town, there's been a delay from since the project was launched in terms of implementation in the city of Cape Town. And only now, when there's been a change of administration in 2021, we see progress. So there's been about a 15-month delay in terms of implementation of the pilot project in the city of Cape Town, in terms of the safer city model. And we want to understand what would have caused that particular delay in terms of the implementation. And we believe that the Premier should know, in line with the commitment that the Premier is making, that he's a Premier that wants to ensure that government works with everyone to ensure that we deliver, or at least to assure the safety of the people of the Western Cape. Thanks.
Premier.
Thank you very much. As far as the delay is concerned, I presume that the ANC and the leader of the opposition in the city would also be asking that question to get clarity. Of course, I don't want to give that answer from a thumbsuck point of view. And absolutely, we need to find ways to bring down the crime rate. We believe we need extra deployment. I would also believe that we need control. That should be a better model. And of course, the one thing that the ANC doesn't do is they don't apply data and science and then say, hang on a second, we're probably doing the wrong thing here. Let's try something else. I would hope that the honourable member would come to this house to say, but what we've employed is this safer city concept in Gauteng, in eThekwini, and what has happened is the crime rate has plummeted. Now, of course, when it comes to murder, we know that our per capita murder rate is high in the Western Cape, but the numbers of people murdered in other provinces and the number-wise is actually even more than in the Western Cape. So quite frankly, I'm looking forward to seeing results from some of those programs. And of course, if they show results, we will work absolutely together to push for more coordination. We need to make sure that coordination works. I also would like the Honourable Kama to support us in calling for extra resources.
Thank you, Premier. Honourable Sayed, just note that in terms of the rules for hybrid sessions, no interjections are allowed. Please respect the rules. Honourable Kama, you've got an opportunity for a second follow-up.
Thank you.
Honourable Marais, is that on a point of order? No. It's questions to the Premier, and it's only the original. Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, House Chair, and hopefully the Premier will make one understand as to how did now all of a sudden the ANC enter in this very important question that the Premier said it is. But I want to check now, because the Premier is aware of the safer city model and leave what the ANC somewhere else must do where we are not involved. But I want to understand with regards to the progress that has been made in the city of Cape Town in terms of the piloting of the project. And I think even Stellenbosch municipality, Mossel Bay municipality, and Swartland I think some of them had even volunteered to be part of that safer city model. Now, I want to understand through the safety plan of the province, what contribution are we making towards the successful implementation of this initiative? And let's leave ANC and stick to what is important.
Thank you, Honourable Kama, and over to you, Premier.
Just for clarity, I was talking about the leader of the opposition in the city, which happens to be an ANC member, and get them to ask for absolute clarity there, because that's where that question should be asked. I welcome any success in this way, because absolutely we have to make sure that we find ways to make our country safer. And of course, I'm interested in making our province safer, and I look forward to it. Our teams work together already. We sit in those joint operations, and perhaps at a last point, I want to say through you, Chair, to the PC, to the Provincial Commissioner. Thank you very much for the way in which he and his team work with us. We really do value that, because we have to work together to build this safer region. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. The next question belongs to Honourable R.D. Mackenzie. Honourable Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. My question to the Premier is actually around the current census that is taking place. And I just wanted to find out from the Premier, with regards to the census being extended again to the 31st of May, what would the effect be on specifically crucial services such as health, education, and social services if the Western Cape is undercounted?
Premier.
Thank you very much to the Honourable Member for that question. I want to say that, and I think I am on record to say that, you know, the census is a critical tool for any government to make sure that we are planning correctly. Make sure that we have the correct numbers to get our fair allocation of budget. And that's why, as a government, we have engaged with Stats SA. If you remember, a few weeks ago, in actual fact, our count in this province was sitting in the 40%. I'm very happy to announce that as of today, we're sitting at 77%. We have engaged. We actually have the Stats SA team in our extended cabinet every second week now. And we have a team in the province that meets with Stats SA because of the point that I think the Honourable Mackenzie raises. What are the implications for us as a province? We already know that we have been fighting for years to say we want our fair share of the budget, how the division of revenue is done. And quite frankly, that fair share is derived through a number. And that number is how the citizens of this province, of this country, are apportioned by province. And so it gives us that tool. And quite frankly, we know that our education system is under tremendous pressure from the number of learners versus the number of schools we're building, the number of, same thing with health, the number of hospital spaces. It is a critical question. Of course, that's why we are so keen to work with Stats SA. That's why we call on the citizens of this province, please play your part in getting the numbers right, because then we have a proper set of data to put on the table when the division of revenue proportions are applied in South Africa. I want to say that if we just look at our current numbers say that our population is to grow by 1.4 million people in the next 8 years, between now and 2030. 1.4 million people. In the city of Cape Town alone, it's like Bloemfontein coming to Cape Town in 8 years. We're building 6 schools a year at the moment, maybe 7. There are 186 schools, I think, in Bloemfontein. It means we're going to be building close to 50 schools between now and 2030. But if Bloemfontein's moving here, we need to build 186 schools. Or we've got to innovate, find different ways of doing it. That's why this census is so critical. And that's on education. What about healthcare? What about social development? We've just spoken about the effects of crime on our citizens. What about just the social impact, the mental well-being of our citizens that are affected by crime in this province every single day? How we need the correct allocation, that we can actually put the correct measures in place to make sure that our citizens get the best opportunities they can. That's why Census 2022 is so critical. And again, through this House and the members of this House, let's please try and make sure that every citizen gets counted. Go online, welcome that counter into your home, give them the detail that's needed. It is critical we get it right. Thank you, Chair.
The Honourable Premier, Honourable Mackenzie and members, unfortunately the 20 minutes allocated for questions to the Premier has expired. Thank you very much, Premier, for responding to those questions. My apologies, time is not always on our side, Honourable Mackenzie. Honourable members, we will now deal with questions as printed on the question paper. Sorry, you're rising?
Mr. Chair, I rise on an answer to a point of order. I'm not sure if I'm able to. The question was that I was going to leave directly after questions. Is that correct? Because I have a long-standing appointment, but I promise you I will be online en route to that appointment, so I'm not leaving the sitting of this House.
Thank you. Thank you, Premier. And while you're out of order in what you've just said, you are very quick to take a gap. Members, we will now deal with questions as printed on the question paper. I wish to advise honourable members that once the Honourable Minister has started the reply to the oral question as printed on the question paper, honourable members must use the chat facility for this sitting of the House to indicate that they want to ask a follow-up question. There are 4 opportunities for follow-up questions, but the honourable member who has posed the initial oral question as printed on the question paper will have the first opportunity for a follow-up question. Thereafter, other honourable members may then use the remaining opportunities to ask a follow-up question. I recognise the Minister Mbombo.
Thank you, House Chair. I'm sorry I'm unable to put on my camera. Thank you for the question, Member Christians. The department does have an approved security strategy because the question is about the safety. We have liaised with the Western Cape Department of Police Oversight and Community Safety for a standard operating procedure to guide hospital CEOs with the oversight and management of armed South African police officials who access our healthcare facilities, including the armed SAPS officials who are guarding patients requiring inpatient care. We have already done the coordination with this same department for the implementation of a provincial memorandum of agreement between SAPS, Western Cape Provincial Commander, and also us. The MOA is to commit local resources for visibility and support of these SAPS within our health facilities. The implementation of complementary security measures, such as the implementation security technology to bolster the security officer deployment, has also been part of this strategy going forward. And also we have to keep on reviewing, which is what doing the current CCTV installations at health facilities and reiteration of the procurement of CCTV systems on the approved tender, which it actually happened, this one, since July 2021. I must also indicate, House Chair, that the incidents that happened in the New Somerset Hospital, the unfortunate incidents indeed, is that it's just something that is not usual, because as I indicated, I think there was a time about this question some time ago that it's only a policeman who had a gun and it's not a patient. So it has been an unfortunate incident, but we have to take lessons in regard to how people who are with guns, which is specifically the police officers who are on duty, how they're supposed to deal with these, how we're supposed to respond to these issues. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. I recognise the Honourable Member Christians who posed the question. You've got a follow-up question, sir. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Minister, for the answer. I think we're all concerned about the safety of our nurses and also our patients visiting the hospital facilities. Just, Minister, I saw, the spokesperson of the Western Cape Health Department, Mark van der Heever, said that from April 2020 to March 2021, there were 996 incidents. And another concerning thing is the parking areas. nurses are sometimes, the cars is taken away according to this report. And we know that cars has been damaged. So I'm glad that the minister mentioned CCTV cameras, but a concerted effort. I think we are all worried about patients and nurses. And just for 9 months in the following year, 857 cases were reported. So it's worrying, and I'm glad something has been done about it, but it is a major concern. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Before you respond, I recognize
Yes.
next 3 follow-ups, Honourable Windvogel, Botja, and Philander, just so that they can prepare themselves. We listen to you, Honourable Minister.
Yes, thanks, House Chair. Yes, indeed, Member Christians, it is concerning for the people who are there to provide support and render health services to the communities. And it's the communities themselves that are actually assaulting. Because we are just talking about one incident. It is true indeed. Staff, they will know that over the weekends, especially towards the end of the month, in some of the health facilities where there's a high level of alcohol and substance abuse, it's about when the patients come in or the escorts of the patients, they will be not only swearing to the staff, some of them even they will end up taking their phones and so forth. Similar with the EMS, because it affects everyone. It affects everyone, and noting that health service platform becomes a microcosm of what is happening surrounding those societies. So it's about when there's a high level of crime in that particular area, it means that it will have an impact on any other sectors. If it's about, you get a situation where if it's not about the schools, learners threatening the teachers or even bullying each other. It's also where you find that even in the police stations in those areas, where in some stations you even have a police stations that have got security that are being threatened. If it's not about the taxi violence, if it's not about the high level of gender-based violence, like now we're just coming from the safety plan dashboard, showcasing dashboard, where we even show that how much that there's been how much high level of assault towards the pregnant women, specifically in their second trimester, without even them reporting those cases to the police. We have seen how children as young as below the age 2 that has been affected with the violence happening. So we're in those areas. So we are living in a violent society. And therefore, people who are mostly vulnerable, such as the healthcare workers, because they're not armed, and they are there facing head to head and toe to toe with some of these allegedly perpetrators. So that's a kind of a situation. We try as much as we can, but it becomes quite sad that we have to take money that is meant for rendering a service that's supposed to be adding more to appoint more staff. But we have to put high walls. If you go to West Bank Clinic, which is under the city, they even installed a 2-meter wall that is bulletproof. When you go into the gates, it's a whole thing about the zigzag with the backlight and everything that is there. So it is really concerning. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Windvogel, I see you.
Thank you, House Chairperson. House Chairperson, my understanding of the question relates to staff safety concerns and which would lead to traumatic experience. It is for the reason that I want to ask the MSC about the number of reported safety and security incidents which led to staff being traumatized, and how many cases and what was the response of the department. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
I don't have the figures with me in terms of how many staff who have attended the trauma counseling as part of their wellness within the departments or within their units, and also those that go to the .P. I don't have that figure, but it's supposed to be somewhere there, but it was not part of this. But indeed, a member Van Vogel, the mere fact that there is high level of crime in those areas, as I made in examples, it does impact on the staff. So that's why it's not only about staff going to the metropolitan wellness, health and wellness, but we have got localized occupational health and wellness within each and every, some, especially the big facilities, so that people can just go and go there. But surprisingly, in as much as that there's this level of uncertainties, because you cannot operate. It's difficult to operate in a surrounding where you don't know whether this patient will rob you of a phone. Remember, there was a case where in Hanover Park that we ended up have to close the other side of the EC, because we only have got the MOU, the maternity obstetric unit, where actually it was the patients themselves were allowed, although there's a beep beep when you enter due to security in case you are carrying any weapons. But they went there as patients. And then once they're inside that, it was the people from outside the other side of the wall where they have to throw the weapons inside. And then they are supposed to be patients, but they still have to rob the staff. It's that kind of a situation where you'll find that in as much as that they're exposed to the high level pressures of having to render a service, but now they have to keep on looking on the other side, just in case that someone wants to assault and swear all of them. But in terms of the information, I think I did respond to that information. There was a written reply. I'm not sure it was coming from you, about the specifics in regard to how many went for the counseling and what type of the for the counseling in regard to that. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. And the next person recognized is that of Honorable Nkamba Botya. Honorable Nkamba Botya. I believe your microphone might be off. Can we proceed to the Honorable Philander and then come back to you, Honorable Nkamba Botya? Honorable Philander.
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, through you, Minister, you made mention of the review of the current CCTV installation at health facilities. Minister, if you can kindly, through you, House Chair, just please give us an indication by when is this review expected to be completed? And is it expected or anticipated that the department will be procuring more CCTV systems in health facilities? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Member Wendy. Yes, it's already happening because you review a CCTV and then you have to upgrade accordingly, because we have already started this process as far as 2021, because you might have what you call the red zone areas based on our EMS response, and that they have to be accompanied, which it impacts on the stationed facilities that are in those areas. So therefore, we'll find that there are other areas, sub-facilities where we have to install this CCTV. So we keep on upgrading each and every time that the level of the crime is escalating in those other areas. So it is happening. It started as far as the 2021. And if you look in terms of the security budget, actually in the previous financial year, we'll spend almost about 373 million. And we are not talking about other means of actually ensuring that there's staff safety, because we want to actually even to acknowledge the neighborhood watches, which is the costs are not embedded in this. Like, for example, I'm coming from Lotus River CDC, where the clinic committee is mostly the members of the neighborhood watch, where if there's been an unrest or protest, or there've been some level of crime like gunshots in the area, they'll make sure maybe a night before or in the early hours of the morning, there's the same WhatsApp group with the staff where they will text and indicate to the facility manager that the cost is not clear yet, just wait a second until it's cleared. So There are many other multi-pronged approaches.
Yeah, I'm feeling it now.
Sorry, there's a noise, Chair, House Chair.
Thank you. Order. Please, can we ask that the members that have unmuted themselves just mute themselves again? Minister Mbombo, would you like to finish?
Yes. Just to end, the MOA in regard to the visibility of the police officers is still under discussion, because remember, even the police, they are under pressure. So just like when you have in the hotspot or red zone area, that the ambulance has to go via the police station to be escorted by the police, meaning you are taking a police to some of the work that they have to do. Just imagine now that we still have to expect some commitment, the visibility of the police in some of our areas. We can imagine that it will be a daunting task. But we have to see to it that we do as much, whatever we could do in order to protect the staff. But again, House Chair, through you, the whole of this happens, it starts outside the health system, outside the health services. When you have in a situation where the ship-ins don't close, there's a high level of the gangsterism, there's a high level of the other forms of violence, whether it's in school and so forth, that it goes and then it goes to the all other sectors. And then it ends up even landing in our shores, which threaten the staff. So it's not about that the violence started to happen at the health facility. It's something that has been happening outside, which is supposed to be prevented to have such a violent society, so that you protect these kind of areas, because it's supposed to be a calm, it's supposed to be harmony, it's supposed to be a healing space. I mean, the platform of the health services. But unfortunately, we are not operating in our own planet. We are operating in the same planet that we all share. So hence we absorb, and it becomes visible, and then it becomes a whole public sympathy when it happens in a supposing to be safer space like ours, like the health facilities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Nkamba Botja, please try again. Let's see if you're audible. Apologies, we do not seem to be able to hear you. The next question is then from the Honourable Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. When the Minister responded, she talks about obviously the EMS areas and the red zoning. My question would be to the Minister, given that the security incidents not only take place at our health facilities, it take place on the EMS, ambulances get robbed, we've seen an increase in those incidents. What would the Minister reckon the role of our community members should be? Because we've seen in the neighborhood watches as well, 90% of the people in the neighborhood watches are women in our walking bus member, in most of our safety structures. So what would the ministers think our role of our community, particularly our men in our communities that doesn't participate in these structures be, to not only protect the health facility, but our EMF services as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
As we keep on saying that health is everybody's business, I welcome the input from Member Mackenzie. It's not necessarily the response should only be coming from me. We are also welcome even the members of the House to make such an input. I think what is crucial, it's about, as I indicated, that when we enter those hospitals or those clinics, as healthcare workers, we don't carry guns, we don't carry knives. The only weapon we have is about our hands and also our knowledge, and also, of course, our hearts. So when now that kind of the only tools that we have, and then ended up being disturbed, where you'll have, like in the case of the New Somerset, that Sister Sil has to, being an operation manager, night duty now, has to deal with a person who has got a gun. Whilst we are skilled and trained with our psychiatry and all other skills in terms of negotiate with a difficult patient, or with a mentally ill or with misbehaving. But never in any of our curriculum we've ever been taught how to negotiate with a person with a gun. So some of these things just happen, and then we have to make sure that you respond accordingly. So that's why we are saying that that's why actually health has got a violence prevention unit, because we said we cannot just be sitting when we talk about the social ills and then we are the ones who receive the data, because some people don't immediately go to the police station and report that I've just been stabbed, and of course they don't even go. The first thing, a person will go to the hospital and then get dressed, the wound and the gauze and everything, and then don't bother to report. So that's why for us, we say that we are the ones who are feeling all this pinch and all of those. So therefore, let's make sure that we assist in terms of generating the data so that we can share it with the relevant sector, the law enforcement officers, the police and everything. And then secondly, the issue of the social, as we know that with the issue of the violence, especially in the different areas, some of it will find that it goes, that's why the presentation today by Dr. Kmutli from us is about look at it from the life course approach. Don't only look at when Joni, Khatip, or whatever at age 18 now is joined the gang and then wants to commit crime or being violent at the hospital, but take it from that unborn child. When we have got that pregnant woman who is carrying that unborn child in an environment that has got high level of violence already, because the first 2 years of a child's life from conception to the first 1,000 days, which is 2 years, is when the 80% of the brain development happens. When now that child, unborn child, and then up to the age 2, is growing that kind of environment, we're talking about the person now already, the whole of his or her upbringing will have a huge impact. That's why we focus also on those. Therefore, that's why we're saying that let's look at all of this holistic. Don't wait until he's a teenager. Don't wait until he's a school going. Start with, as you indicated, start with before these children are being born, at the time of the society where it is, so that they could be able, when they are born, is that the environment is protected. So you might have probably noticed that I'm probably the loudest who always talk about their jobs and employment, because we do know that it becomes a buffer in the cases of the poverty. Like now, there's been reports also national level in regard to the malnutrition and the starvation, and also the standing among the children, which we know that the malnutrition does have a huge impact in terms of how one behaves in regard to matters related to the cognitive abilities to be able to see what is wrong and right, to differentiate, which is the same thing with the alcohol when we talk about the fetal alcohol syndrome. So for us as health, we do provide all this information, because it's not only about the shootings, it's about how we communicate among each other. And then lastly, House Chair, there was a report that was that also came sometime through the Department of the Safety, where it's a national report actually, where actually they said that you'll find that the origins or the contributing factors when people ended up like fighting, which is mostly, if it's not a Friday evening, now it even goes to the Monday morning, but at the time it was mostly these early Saturday mornings. You'll find that the origins is about argument. The argument. And that argument is normally happens with the people who are closer. So it means if you be arguing and then you stab each other at 2 a.m., it means that you were closer together, whether as friends or as family. So what is it that we can be able to assist government, civil society, and everyone in creating this social cohesion? People to have that cultural warmth. Up to that, you don't argue that you even have an appetite to take a knife and stab each other. And I made an example that now we see pregnant women, 50%, 49 point something percent in the current stats, what we have from our trauma, where pregnant women have been assaulted. And they were not assaulted, no, it means they were assaulted, one, knowing that that person is pregnant. The mere fact that they come after 4 months, they was during the second trimester. It seems that it does show that something is very wrong. And unfortunately, it cannot only be fixed by health. We absorb all of these social ills, but they are perpetuated elsewhere. So we appeal to everyone, faith-based organizations, other departments, other spheres of government, and us here in this House, Chair, to protect our healthcare workers by making sure that we stop the tap from running, because what we do is just mopping the floor. So let's stop this tap everywhere so that we end up not having these health workers who have to be exposed to this kind of the violent society unnecessarily. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. That is the end of questions for oral reply, which brings us to the next item on the order paper, statements by members. There will now be an opportunity for member statements, and may I remind you,
House Chair.
Honourable Kababotja.
House Chairperson, I just wanted to know if I'm now audible, because I have been disadvantaged since the start of this sitting. So I want to know if I'm audible. Then if it is, then I'm fine. Thank you.
Yes, your problems have been sorted, and I'm really grateful to be able to hear your voice now. You will probably be number 3rd on the list of statements. Thank you. So, honourable members, may I remind you that statements are scheduled for 2 minutes each. And I first recognise the Honourable Plato from the DA.
Honourable Chairperson, thank you for the opportunity. As many of you are aware, I and several members of the social cluster of this House recently visited Sao Paulo in Brazil to interface with our counterparts there and to share insights into our policy, which could benefit citizens in both countries. The trip took place over a number of days, and we were fortunate enough to be able to engage with many stakeholders during our time there. What we saw was at once inspirational and shocking. Brazil is a nation that has its own share of problems, but one which until recently stood on an equal footing with our own. Speaker, and this is the issue, this is no longer the case. The very most important issue about our visit was to understand that their unemployment rate is standing at 12%, when ours is approaching 50%. And looking at their population of over 215 million people, there is definitely, Honourable Chair, some big lessons to be learned. They have a strong education system, and their currency is stronger than ours. The simple and painful truth is that Brazil is pushing forward along with the rest of the BRICS alliance, and we are getting left behind. And I would urge this House today to consider some of the things which Brazil has done well. The country is administered under a federal system, one in which individual states are vastly better equipped to deal with their own unique problems and are not forced to be reliant on a national government. They educate their youth in financial matters from an early age and ensure that the education system is focused on delivering skills needed for the job market. They have emphasized public transport and have used initiatives such as urban farming to reduce food insecurity and to create jobs. Brazil may not be perfect, but the national government has its priorities in order. Honourable Chairperson, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, ANC. Honourable Said.
Honourable House Chairperson, the African National Congress notes and condemns the internal divisions of the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape, impacting on democratic governance and service delivery in our province. The absence of the Premier for most of today in this House, physical absence, adds to a long list of ways in which he has consistently undermined this legislature. The undermining of the legislature started with the suspension of former MEC Bonginkosi Madikizela, when details of that move was denied to this House. The refusal of the Premier to release the Williams report into allegations of former MEC Fritz to members of this House was another example of how he has undermined the legislature. a body constitutionally bound to hold him and his executive accountable. We are therefore not surprised to hear reports that Premier Windi, in whom the executive authority of this province rests, demanded that the Speaker resign from his post. The DA will do well to educate its Premier on the democratic rule of law and separation of powers. This attitude of dismissal of this House and its constitutional duties by the Premier permeates throughout his cabinet. More than half of the provincial cabinet is not even present here today. This attitude has a direct impact on the democratic governance in the province and service delivery. The work of this House is hampered because the Premier and his executive refuses to account here. We call on the leader of government business, the Honourable Dr. Ivan Meyer, to provide leadership because clearly the Premier, as leader of the DA caucus in this House, cannot do so. We cannot be led in this House by a Speaker and a Deputy Speaker who both have clouds over their heads and who openly and clearly cannot work together. For now, both the Speaker and Deputy ought to step aside for the time being. Again, the ANC notes and is not surprised that it is a black person who is dealt with by the DA while whites are protected. Madikizela is punished, JP Smith is protected, Fritz is punished, Bradell is protected. And in closing, I say this without seeking to protect any black leader of the DA from being held accountable. I thank you.
Honourable Sayed, please, you've got 2 minutes and you exceeded your time by a considerable margin. Also, you were very close to the offside line, if not completely offside in terms of Rule 59(1)(b), reflecting on the integrity of members of this House. The next person is Honourable Nkamba Botya. Honourable Sayed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chair,
just a moment, Honourable Nkamba Botya.
Honourable House Chair, perhaps then for future reference that we don't move away from that particular rule, could you possibly explain how exactly I was close to contravening that rule of reflecting on the integrity of a member of this House? Thank you.
Thank you. I will do so afterwards. Thank you very much, Honourable Nkamba Botya.
House Chair, thank you very much. The Economic Freedom Fighters would like to take this opportunity to condemn members of Democratic Alliance within the Western Cape Executive Committee and Legislature for bringing the Western Cape Provincial Parliament into disrepute. This follows, House Chair, the attempts to employ black door sinister tactics to force the Speaker of the Provincial Legislature to resign. The matter has its roots within the DA factional battles, which are now playing themselves out in the public and negatively affecting the two arms of government. House Chairperson, the DA finds it unacceptable for an African man to refer a white woman to the Conduct Committee for possible sanctions. It is now public knowledge that Beverly Schaefer abused state resources by using a state vehicle that she was not supposed to use.
Point of order. I believe you are reflecting on the dignity of a member. Please bring a substantive motion if you so wish. Thank you. Honourable Kama.
No, thank you, House Chair. I also now am very much confused. Maybe you'll have to assist us because I'm getting a feeling that you are really suppressing the members because you don't even see what is it that
Honourable Kama.
They are saying, which reflects because talking about what is there is not reflecting. Please. It's just talking about.
That's not a point of order. Thank you, Honourable Kama. And if you question any ruling by the chair, you are welcome to write to the Speaker in this regard. The next person is from the DA. Honourable America.
What is really happening here?
Chairperson, I don't know if Honourable
House Chairperson, on a point of order. House Chairperson. On a point of order, can I be guided by the House in terms of what rule have I not followed in this manner? Because this is how we've been doing the statements all along. Now that this matter is speaking directly to the DA, now it's having an issue in this House. Can you please enlighten me on the rule that you are referring to on this matter?
I did quote the rule 59(1)(b). Please go and read that rule. You're welcome. Thank you. The next
House
speaker.
Chairperson, does the rule apply on certain statements or on all the statements? Because this is not the first type of a statement that has been read in this House, and that rule was never mentioned.
You are welcome to seek clarity.
Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you.
Honorable Chairperson.
Whose hand is raised? Is that Honorable Mvimbi?
Yes, Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Mvimbi.
Yes, Honorable Chairperson, just maybe it might also assist us because we are actually in a session of the House, and then the sessions of the House is actually being run in terms of the rules. And then now some of the rules, even if you may mention them, it might assist to actually explain them, because Rule Section 5(9) says that no member may A, impugn improper motives on, B, reflect on the integrity or dignity of, or verbally abuse another member. And then 2 goes on to say a member who wishes to bring any improper or unethical conduct on the part of another member to the attention of the House may do so only by way of substantive motion, comprising of a clearly formulated and properly substantiated allegation. Now, Honorable, so maybe Chairperson, it might assist that if you can just say, maybe for the benefit of some of us in the House, virtually and also physically, how is that, how has this rule been actually broken? Otherwise, you might also yourself be actually guilty of actually abusing the very same rules that you are supposed to be actually guiding us and leading us on. So if you can just explain as to how has member Makamba Mboja actually transgressed this rule as I've just read it.
Thank you. Honorable Mvimbi, the rules doesn't allow for the House Chair to explain his or her decisions. The decisions are final, and if you want to question any of those decisions, as you've read, you can bring also write to the Speaker. The rules also provide for that, and I encourage you to do that in order for you to be able to get clarity on your question. Thank you so much. I also see Honorable Mboja.
Honorable House Chairperson, I have not finished reading my statement, so
Correct.
I want to give me time to finish my statement.
Honorable Kamba Botja, I ruled that the contents of your statement does not comply with the rules of this House, and that there are other, you cannot, can I just, please, you're very close to a yellow card, Honorable Member. You know the rules, no interjections in terms of hybrid sessions. You are, thank you. Honorable Sayed, no interjections, thank you. You're not recognized. Honorable Kama, you recognized?
No, thank you very much, Chair. You see now we are confused, all of us, because I think as the Chair, you were supposed to say you are not supposed to do this, so that she refrains from doing that and be able to, because she has 2 minutes to finish her speech. Now, you just say you can't continue.
Correct.
Because of the content.
Correct.
What is that? Because now you are going against the decisions that will have been made at programming that yes. The member has 2 minutes.
Yes.
And only if the member would have, after you had made a ruling and not wanted to abide by your ruling, then you can be able to say you can't continue to speak. But
Sorry.
to just say you can't speak,
Thank you.
and she does not even know what part of the statement is actually in contravention of these rules that we are talking about. We think that is a bit abuse of power, Chair, and really, you must assist us in that regard.
Yes. No, thank you very much. Unfortunately, honourable members, if you're outside of the rules, you are not allowed to continue, and that is my ruling. And you are welcome, as I've said. The rules do provide for you to get the necessary clarity, and I have ruled on this matter. Also, the rules also say no repetitive motions of order. So please not. I recognize the whip. She's indicated that she would like to speak.
Thank you,
Honourable
Honourable House Chairperson. I think, Honourable House Chairperson, with respect to the position that one is holding, particularly that one of yourself, it would be proper, because clearly when we're sitting here, we can see there seems to be a lack of understanding of the rules, and I would appeal to you to ask the table staff to assist you, because the member still has a few seconds to go through. Now, if anything from what she is going to say from the remaining seconds is out of line, you would then rule her instead of shutting it down and say she may not continue. There's no such a rule. I would like you to point out what the rule are you referring to. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Lekker. I have referred to Rule 59(1)B repeatedly. So please, I refer you to that rule. And the next speaker for a statement is Honorable America. Thank you.
Chairperson, sorry to interject. The ruling that you are referring to does not mention that I cannot continue with my statement. If you read it thoroughly with understanding, it does not say that I cannot continue with my statement. Can please read the rule again? Please make your interpretation.
Thank you, Honorable Kambabotja. I have ruled on it. Thank you. And as I've said,
Chairperson, this is out of order. You cannot suppress us like this in this house. We all have a right to speak in this house.
Thank you.
Chair, my hand is also up.
Please, Honorable
Chair, my hand is also up on a point of order.
Who's that? Maran. Honorable Maran, thank you.
Yes, Chair, on a point of order, Chair, because I've sitting with the rules in front of me and I've read 59, right through 51, 59, 1 and 2. And you have just said, Chair, if a person is out of
order, yes.
Yes, then the person cannot continue. Nowhere in 59, either 1 or 2, does it say that the person cannot continue. So I also would like to understand which rule are you quoted that the person cannot continue.
Thank you, Honorable Maran. As I've said, please direct that question to the office of the Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Mbeka.
Are you not a speaker today?
Point of order.
I'm the House Chairperson and chairing this meeting according to the rules. Thank you.
Oh, there's no
point of order.
I may not speak on the statement. There's not a rule of such nature.
Point of order.
Thank you, honourable members. Please, I would like Honourable America to raise his or to do his statement. Honourable America, please unmute yourself.
Sorry, House Chair. House Chair, I went to the George Municipality with the Standing Committee on Transport last week. I witnessed firsthand how the municipality and the province prioritizes and invests in public transportation. The municipality is currently in the final stages of implementation of phase 4 of the Go George bus service. 11 buses have been allocated to serve the community of Thembaletu. This would allow more people to access different locations in George quicker, safer and cheaper. When the bus stops are constructed in Thembaletu, it is anticipated that not to be more than 500 meters away for the majority of the community, from the majority of the community to residences to access the service. These are significant developments to those who rely on public transportation because residents will no longer have to walk long distances to reach a bus stop. Thembaletu's CCTV system had also been upgraded by the municipality. This will keep communities safe, but also ensure that anyone attempting to vandalize the Go George service infrastructure will be apprehended and face the consequences of breaking the law. The DA-led George Municipality and the City of Cape Town Municipality have repeatedly demonstrated the benefits of municipal control public transportation. The DA in this province and in this provincial parliament applaud these efforts and the continued support from the national and the Western Cape governments in ensuring that the public has access to reliable modes of transportation. The George municipality has committed itself to roll out the service to Thembalethu before the end of the year. The progress with this suggests that this will be achieved. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Good. Honourable August, do you have a statement?
Honourable Chair, with the commencement of the war in Ukraine, the world reacted to defend the human rights violations, which is essentially trampled on in the event of war and any illegal occupation of a country's territory. The global world of nations rightfully rose to defend these gross injustices and called continuously to this day for the war to end. We have seen horrible imagery, news castings, and was moved by the pleas of Ukraine's refugees asking for support and assistance. We applauded how swiftly aid was made available to the destitute, and the world continues to condemn the actions of aggressor. Chair, this House was lit up with yellow and blue to show its support to Ukraine, and the reasons provided was that as signatory to the United Nations Charter on Human Rights, South Africa has a moral obligation to defend the sovereignty and peace of all member states, including Ukraine. We have seen this government bend over backwards to take its own position on foreign policy and simultaneously set in motion its own mandate on foreign affairs against the Constitution, who empowers the President and the Minister with the keys to develop South Africa's position on foreign relations. A war has existed since 1948 and that has claimed 14,000 lives between 1987 and 2021. Is not enough for this government to condemn Israel's actions in slaughtering Palestine. This government should not execute its mandate by practicing hypocrisy, but should apply its position on human rights equally. I'm hereby calling on this House to lit up in the colors of Palestine to show its support in defending the human rights violations of Palestinians and that it condemns the actions of Israel.
Thank you, Honourable ACDP.
Thank you, House Chair. The ACDP once again point out the tragic events that happened at New Somerset Hospital on the 7th of May, 2022. This was extremely traumatizing for staff and patients, especially since it caused the death of Constable Donne Phillips and 2 inpatients. This, Chair, is a really, really sad story. And according to the ACDP, this could have been prevented. Now, Chair, an interesting story is that Constable Phillips was there not even to safeguard the person that killed him. He was there for somebody else, but he was alone on duty safeguarding Ayanda Mpinda. He was there to safeguard that person, and a Mr. Malgas killed him. So the questions are out in the public domain is the following. 1, why was Officer Phillips alone on duty? And why was Mr. Malgas released by the policeman that brought him to New Somerset Hospital? He assaulted a policeman in Vredendal. He was transported, and the 2 policemen that brought him to the hospital released him. So the question is, why was this person not charged? And why was it released? Is it because the police did not know how to hand over an accused? Why was the accused released? Why was he not charged if he assaulted the policeman out in Vredendal? So the question is, again, is it because we do not have enough resources in the Western Cape? Is it because we have a shortage of policemen and policewomen, and that's why a constable was killed? And I think the police must take responsibility for the loss of this constable. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Christians. ANC.
Thank you, House Chairperson. The ANC government remains committed towards the vision of the creation of a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous society. Our country's constitution is a social contract binding citizens to create an inclusive South Africa. It is disheartening that in the Western Cape, there are still enclaves of racism as exposed by the recent Stellenbosch University's racism incident, where a white-faced student urinated on the laptop and books of a fellow black student. The conduct of Tiens du Toit should not be looked at in isolation from other racism incidents in schools and society. It is definitely part of the learned culture inherent in racism enclaves like Stellenbosch. We condemn this barbaric act in the strongest possible terms. Equally, we must view the DA and the provincial government's silence on the matter in a very serious light. The DA's policies, actions and inactions against racism create a conducive environment for racism. As early as 2012, DA Councillor Catherine Boysen-Nett resigned from the DA after her complaint of racism against a fellow councillor who called the DA councillor by the K word was not adequately addressed. Recently, DA councillor and former MP Thandeka Gada suffered a similar fate, and her case too was swept under the carpet. In light of the above, we must commend the activism of SASCO, the ANC Youth League, various youth formations, and students at the Good Hope Seminary High School for confronting racism head-on. In line with our commitment in the last sitting, all members must commit to play a role to destroy the demon of racism wherever it rears its ugly head. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Lekker. DA, Honorable Bosman.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Chairperson, the international world and international companies are ready to invest in the Western Cape. Tourists want to come here and airlines and cruise ships want to bring them here. Our tourism recovery is a key pillar in getting us back on track. And in the Western Cape, we are keen to see the negative effects of COVID subside. But the deliberate mismanagement of the South African economy by the ANC is hampering this. We know that things are going to get a little bit more difficult, especially with the ANC plundering Eskom, unable to keep the lights on, businesses having to close due to not being able to deal with unpredictable load shedding. And House Chairperson, although the ANC tries very hard to stall growth in the Western Cape, we found ways to succeed. Through our continued investment in the Air Access Program, we have seen this week that Virgin Atlantic Airways will bring back their direct flights to Cape Town from London. This means we've got another direct and dedicated 80,000 seats from November 2022, just in time for our peak tourist season. We know that these direct flights bring more than 6 billion rands to the local economy. House Chairperson, we are determined to bring tourists, whether by air or sea. That is why I'm very excited by the work done by Westco to ensure that 104 cruise ship visits will be calling at the Port of Cape Town. This is an exciting time for the tourism sector, as a number of indicators show that there's pent-up demand that we could benefit from. House Chairperson, although all the players in our province are making sure that we create a conducive environment, we are still being let down by national government. During a meeting with the South African High Commissioner in London last week, it was revealed that many British tourists simply cannot choose South Africa as a holiday destination due to our continued requirement that they need a negative PCR test despite being vaccinated. These tests cost up to £80 per person, so if a family of 4 has a choice of a holiday in South Africa with a £320 PCR test bill versus a holiday in Portugal with no barriers to entry, they choose the cheaper option. House Chairperson, I encourage all members of all parties to work with us to grow the economy in the Western Cape and to speak to the counterparts at the ANC-run national government to open up South Africa for international tourists, to open up for investment. I thank you.
Thank you. Freedom Front Plus.
Chair, the Freedom Front Plus has noted the high escalation of serious, aggravated rape and murders committed in the Western Cape. We noted the huge backlog in finalizing cases relating to gender-based violence due due to a huge DNA backlog and the dire shortage of well-trained detectives to solve crime. We call on the Premier to fight unrelenting for the devolution of powers relating to police matters to this province to bring stability in the Western Cape. The time has come for a multi-party position on the principle of subsidiarity. We need a conference of leaders who can deliberate on the future of this province instead of each one trying to build our own empire for himself. We need a rainbow coalition straddling all other selfish ambitions if we are to solve problems relating to adequate housing, economic growth, protecting our environment, rail and road transport, job creation and education. Good governance is what we need. It is in the interest of all the people living in this province if we are to survive the current geopolitical events that's overtaking us. And to this extent, the Freedom Front Plus leads the campaign countrywide to achieve this rainbow coalition to solve this country's problems.
Thank you. Honorable. Die volgende is El Jamaa, achtbare Brinkhuis.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. In October 2021, the Western Cape Education Department fired a highly respected principal, Mr. Wesley Newman, from his post at the Heathfield High School on charges of misconduct. This after the principal took a decision not to reopen the school during the peak of COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Newman's decision was based on the National Disaster Management Regulations and fully supported by the school governing body. The dismissal of school principals responsible for academic excellence turnarounds largely occurs in the Western Cape to stop advancements of black learners. This underhand tactic by the DA-run Western Cape Education Department is a matter of national importance, as National Parliament gave an undertaking during the peak of the COVID-19 that parents have a choice whether to send their children to school. The tension at the school is evident as learners and neighboring communities have embarked on daily protest actions in support of Mr. Newman. We are a month away from June 16 National Youth Day, and today's learners are looking up to the historic and tragic events in the education of the youth of 1976. The former MEC for Education, Debbie Sheffer, has since resigned amidst a storm brewing about her capacity to be in this important position. She and the head of WCED have refused to meet with Heathfield High's SGB to discuss the issue of COVID-19. Students, parents, and teachers are now prepared to take to the streets to defend Mr. Newman. The angry learners, parents, and wider school community are expecting the Premier to intervene and return their beloved principal to his rightful position at the school. Mr. Newman took a principled decision not to accept the department's offer to demote him and a post at another school. Honorable Premier, this action of the Western Cape Education Department.
Time is up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Please take your seat. Thank you. Last statement from the DA, Honorable Mackenzie. I see you.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair, I'm glad to see that President Ramaphosa has reached the decision to cancel the national government's plan to spend 22 million rand on the proposed ornamental flagpole. But despite this project's cancellation, the fact that it was ever proposed and approved in the first place by the Cabinet indicates a disturbing and dangerous trend with national government, one in which ministers spend lavish amounts of public funds on spurious and unnecessary vanity projects that have no benefit to the country's citizens. Even now, despite the failure of this flagpole, Natim Tetwa is fighting to rename and modify the Afrikaans Taal Monument in Paarl at substantial expense to the taxpayer. House Chair, Minister Tetwa's proposed flagpole has already cost this country 1.7 million rand in feasibility study and would have cost the taxpayers 22 million rand to build. A basic calculation tells us that 22 million rand could provide 62,857 SRD grants with about 50 rand left over. How many will suffer, Honorable House Chair, from this latest project? How much will be sacrificed for the ego of those in Pretoria? To be fair, House Chair, Natim Tetwa is the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, and has defended his flagpole proposal as falling under his mandate. So let us examine what can be done with his mandate. Artists crippled by the lockdowns could receive the funding they need to survive and continue their work. Museums could have benefited from the finalization of the National Museum Policy, which has stayed in draft form for decades. This province had its own museum policy for almost 10 years because we focus on results, not on vanity projects. This trend of unnecessary and irrelevant spending demonstrates what we have known in this country for many years, that the president, the members of his cabinet, and the ANC have totally become detached from the realities of the average South African. I congratulate those colleagues in the National Parliament and the NCOP who has been vigilant to hold government to accounts, which would otherwise been a waste of money. I fear their work is not over yet. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That brings us to the end of statements. In terms of Rule 145(6), I now give one or more members of the executive present an opportunity to respond to member statements for not more than 5 minutes collectively. Can I please get an indication whether there are any members of the executive that would like to respond? I see Minister Bradell is unmuted.
If there's nobody in the house that will respond, I will respond.
Please proceed, Minister Bradell.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Honourable House Chair, to the statement of Honourable Shahid, I do understand that the Honourable Shahid tried to save a sinking ANC ship and therefore come with these kind of nonsensical statements. I can just for the record state that there's no divisions in the DA and they must stop focusing on us and rather try to see what can be done to save the sinking ship that pulls the whole of South Africa down underwater. The Premier has acted within his powers, within the rule of law, within what anybody can expect from a Premier. It's never easy to act against your own colleagues. And I'm very proud to be part of this team because what the DA promised to the people is that we will discipline our members when necessary. We will be strict within the party, and every DA member recognize that and knows that we will be acted against if we overstep a certain line. I don't know why the ANC is so obsessed to get the report of MEC Fritz, but it can only speak to a very negative outcome, and that is to get the names of the people who has blown the whistle on a member that is now no more a member of Parliament. So, Honourable Speaker, the Premier acted within the rule of law on all the matters that was put in front of him, and I think all my colleagues respect that. On the Speaker's case currently, you're innocent until proven guilty, and the Premier had an opinion, and the opinion was...
Minister Bradell, I have two hands. The one is that of Honourable Kama and then Honourable Dugmore. Please just hold your breath for a moment. Honourable Kama.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I think my point of order is guided by the ruling that you would have made, because one really struggles to understand the ruling, but you made it when Member Makamba Pocha was making reflections on a member of this House. Now, when I'm listening to the Minister's reply and how the Premier even now continues to, and what Member Khalid, Member Said, would have mentioned.
Sorry, your point of order? What rule?
59B. That's why I'm saying it's with that.
No, but thank you. My ruling is that Honorable Bradell is not contravening Rule 59. Please take your seat. Thank you. Honorable Dugmore, your point of order.
Thank you very much, Chair. My point of order relates to the honourable member misleading the House. The honourable member has just said the most unbelievable thing in the sense that he said there are no divisions within the DA. This coming from someone who himself has twice been convicted by the public protector for breaching the code of ethics. So I would.
That is not a point of order. Please proceed, Honorable Bradell.
Well, the ANC don't
That's what
like
you
to
can
include
expect from him.
Honourable House Chair.
Sometimes
Honourable House Chair, and on the statement that half of the MECs is not in their house, I'm online, my colleagues is online, so we must then decide if you're online, are you in the house or not? And my understanding is that we're in the house currently. So I just want to rectify that. And rather the Honourable Darkmore.
Honorable Bradell, I've got a point of order here in the House.
Chair, on a point of order, and this point of order is on you.
What rule?
No, Honorable Kama was still busy speaking and expanding on his objection, and you immediately ruled on that. You're supposed to hear the member out.
Please. When you raise a point of order, Honorable Said, and I think you know it quite well, you must just refer to the rule that you want the chair to be ruling on. Thank you very much. Back to you, Honorable Bradell. You still have almost 3 minutes. Members of the MEC. Honorable Bradell, would you like to proceed? Please unmute yourself.
Premier, Honourable House Chair, thank you. Honourable House Chair, the DA don't have a step aside rule where you keep on paying people full salary and full benefits and did never act against them like the ANC. If we look at the outcome of the Zondo Commission, can the Honourable Darkmore and show us anybody that was fired by the ANC, or you can't? So I'm very proud to be part of this DA team. We will keep on building this province and the country, and in 2024 we will be the saviors. We will run the country after the election. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the MEC that would like to respond? You still have 2.5 minutes left. None. Thank you very much. That is the end of member statements, which brings us to the next item on the order paper, notices of motion. In terms of the new Rule 151, all notices of motions by members are required to be delivered to the Secretary for placing it on the order paper. These motions have been duly submitted and published on the order paper below the line. In terms of motions without notice, I would like to inform you that in terms of this new standing rule pertaining to motions without notice, condolence and congratulatory motions were submitted to the Programming Authority prior to this plenary on the 23rd of May 2022. Members are also reminded that motions without notice pertaining to congratulatory and condolences will not be allowed in this sitting that have not been processed by the Programming Authority. I have been informed that in the Programming Authority meeting of the 23rd of May 2022, political parties did submit the names of honourable members in the desired order of speaking, and those who had wished to move a motion without notice in this sitting of the House. I will therefore, just for noting and for the purpose of the minutes, call out the honourable members' names who have accordingly been submitted and approved. The following members' motions have been approved by the Programming Authority as follows. The Honourable Brinkhuis of Al Jama, Honourable L.J. Botha, DA, Honourable Christians, ACDP, Honourable Mackenzie, DA, Honourable Maran, ANC, Honourable van der Westhuizen, DA, Honourable Lekker, ANC, Honourable Mackenzie, again DA, Honourable Maran, again ANC, and then Honourable Sayed, ANC, and another motion proposed by Honourable Sayed, ANC. I now put the motions duly submitted and approved by the Programming Authority to the House. Are there any objections? No objections? Agreed to. These motions will appear in the minutes of proceedings and in Hansard in each individual member's name as if that member had read them aloud. I will now afford the opportunity to members to move motions without notice as per Standing Rule 152.
Sorry, Chairperson, I'm trying to raise my hand as a point of order.
Apologies for not recognizing that while I'm reading. Honourable Dugmore, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, you made a statement now, just a short while ago, in which you said that any member who stands up and wants to address the presiding officer on a point of order must state the rule in terms of which they are doing that. Now, I would like you, because this is critical for how this meeting proceeds, because that is not what the rule says. The rule does not require of any member, and I would like to refer you to Rule 66, Chairperson, because if you look at the rule that actually deals with points of order, there's absolutely no reference in the rules to the fact that a member rising on a point of order has to say in terms of which rule he or she is actually raising the matter. Now, if I can refer you specifically to that clause, Honourable Chairperson, you will notice that the procedure for dealing with that is very clearly outlined in terms of that particular rule, where it simply says that a point of order, and this is under 66.3, must relate to a procedure, practice, or operation of the House, or a complaint of unparliamentary conduct or behavior on the part of a member, which member, etc., etc. Now, could you tell us, in terms of what were you referring to when you said that you have to cite the rule in terms of which you are raising a point of order? Because the only rule on a point of order is Rule 66. So possibly you want to concede that you made a mistake, or maybe there you would like to explain yourself. But I don't think we can let that become a ruling which is sustained in this House. And I would like you to reflect on your ruling, either now or come back to this House later. But or possibly you could just help us by referring to which rule you were referring to.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Sorry.
Chair, no. I'm not the chair. I'm the leader of the opposition.
Thank you. Leader of the opposition. My apologies. Leader of the opposition, a point of order must obviously relate to the rules and the points of order recognized by the rules of order. And it is not befitting to do that via a speech, but people or members are supposed to rise and then point out where they believe that the rules of order have been transgressed. That is all. You don't need to cite the number of the rule. In terms of our rules, in terms of the National Assembly, you do need to cite the number of, or the number of the rule. But here, rules of order must be pertinent and they must not be speeches. And that is my ruling. Thank you very much. Thank you. Honourable members.
House Chairperson.
There's a hand from Honourable Nkamba Botja.
House Chairperson, from what the last member has spoken about, I still want to understand, when you stopped me on my statement, on what rule were you did you refer that to? Because gathering from the events of today's sitting, House Chairperson, you rather create your own DA parliament where you won't have issues of applying House rules as you please. If some statements are distasteful to the DA, then the rules are forcefully and incorrectly applied on opposition parties. That is suppressing us deliberately so and abusing the powers of being the speaker.
Thank you.
I want you to still take me to the issue of the Rule 55, because Rule 55 has got nothing to do with that limits you on the content of the statement. It only limits you on the time of the statement and nothing to do with what is the content of the statement.
Thank you, Honourable. I did cite the rule and the number of the rule. And secondly, please, once a ruling has been made, the ruling has been made, and if you want to address that afterwards, you must please also, in terms of the rules, follow the rule which says that you must write to the speaker. Thank you very much. And I am not going to debate that because that would be not deviating from the order paper. Thank you very much.
Honorable Chairperson.
Sorry, there's a hand in the House. Honorable Mackenzie.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, Ryland Rule 66.5, because I see there are members aggrieved in the House, and 66.5 is very clear. A member who's aggrieved may not challenge the ruling in the House. That member should follow the process of writing to the Speaker, who must then convene a Rules Committee within a reasonable time to address the principle of the ruling. That should only apply to substantive matters.
The rule that doesn't exist.
Thank you. Thank you, honourable members. As I've said, there's no debate regarding the rulings. So can we please proceed? As I've said, the motions will appear in the minutes of proceedings and in Hansard in each individual member's name as if that member had read them aloud. And I will now afford the opportunity to members to move motions without notice as per Standing Rule 152D. This could also include motions without notice that were not approved in the Programming Authority meeting. Members are reminded that the 30 minutes as per Standing Rule 152D will start now. I recognize Honourable Brinkhuis.
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, on behalf of the Al-Jama, I move without notice that this House notes the appeals from the Muslim community to the City of Cape Town to remove the adhan or calls to prayers from its bylaws on noise pollution. The City of Cape Town is misleading communities, giving the undertaking that the bylaws pertaining to the adhan and the ringing of church bells will be amended and removed. However, the City of Cape Town reneged on its undertaking and instead changed the amendment agreed to remove the bylaw. The Al-Jama calls on the Premier to intervene in this matter and heed the community's calls for the exclusion of the adhan and church bells from the bylaws pertaining to noise pollution. I so move. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Brinkhuis. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice?
Object that it is being moved without notice.
There is an objection. Thank you. The motion will be printed on the order paper. The next is a motion in the name of Honourable Kegu. Honourable Kegu. We move on. The next is a motion in the name of Honourable Kama.
Objection.
Please, Honourable Kama, proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. I, on behalf of the ANC, move a motion without notice that the House notes that the Western Cape government, through its Case for Sports report, acknowledged that sports have proven to be an effective antidote for crime when it stated that sport and recreation provide idle people with a healthy alternative to crime, violence, and antisocial behavior. Notes further that despite this acknowledgement by the provincial government, sports and recreation are given the smallest share of the budget, thereby disempowering the department from achieving its mandate, and calls on the provincial government to provide the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports with an adequate budget which allows it to play a meaningful role in addressing the scourge of drugs and gangsterism in the poor working class communities. I so move.
Thank you, Honourable Kama. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No, there's no objection. Agreed to. The next one, it's a motion. Sorry, can I recognize there was a hand raised by Honourable Mvimbi. It's been lowered. Can we proceed? Thank you. We proceed. The next one, again, a motion in the name of Honourable Kegu. Not present. Honourable Bosman. You are recognized.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. Honourable House Chairperson, I move without notice that the House notes the outstanding work of renowned South African economist Mike Sushler in analysing the South African economy in extremely volatile conditions. Notes further that Mr. Sushler always aimed to make his analysis accessible to the average citizen, helping many people to understand complicated economic developments, and that the House acknowledges the passing of Mr. Sushler represents a big loss to innovative economic analysis in South Africa. I so move.
Thank you. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is no objection. Agreed to. The next motion is a motion in the name again of Honourable Kama.
Thank you very much, House Chair. On behalf of the ANC, I move a motion without notice that the House notes with great sense of pride and celebrates the achievements of the Cape Town All-Stars, which finished third in log standings of the South Africa's National First Division, thereby qualifying to the playoffs for a spot in the DStv Premiership next season. Notes further that this means the Western Cape stands a chance of having another team representing the province in the Premier Division, which is great news for the economy and the people in the Cape Flats as the team played its home games at the Athlone Stadium, and calls on the provincial government, the city of Cape Town, and the people of this province in general to rally behind the team and wishes them well ahead of their playoffs commencing on Sunday, May 29 of 2022 against Pretoria University. I so move.
Thank you. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice?
No.
There's no objection. Agreed to. The next motion is a motion in the name of Honourable Kamba Botja.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. I move without notice that the House condemns the continued femicide and abuse against women and children. This follows the recent continued killings of women and children for greedy ends. We are now tired of hearing that a woman or a child was killed and found with missing body parts. We are also tired of hearing accounts of women being shot 9 times and the police still failing to arrest the perpetrators. It is now clear that our criminal justice system and its laws are far from being in a deterrent for criminals who have made it a hobby to brutally build and kill innocent people. Coupled by look of things, such matters of GBV in this province will never end while we are having a DA-led parliament in our midst. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice?
Objection. Chair, on a point of order.
House Chairperson, can you just repeat that last line? I didn't hear it properly.
Honourable Kamba Botja, there's a request
Chair?
that perhaps just read the last line again.
The last line says, by look of things in regards to the matters of GBV in this country, in this province, will never end the gender-based violence while we are having a DA parliament in our midst. Thank you.
Is there any
Chairperson, on the point
objections
of
to the motion? Indeed, there is an objection. The motion will be printed on the order paper. The next is Honourable Mvimbi, who is online.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I move a motion without notice that the House notes with concern that the Premier's commitment to building security fences at 30 schools each year for the next 5 years has not yielded any positive result for the schools in poor working class communities, where a majority of schools have broken fences and weak fences that are falling off, including those that have not been fixed for decades. Note further that during an oversight visit to school in my constituency, I identified several schools that where fences were broken or missing in large sections of the school, and calls on the MEC to prioritize building fences at Bongoletu Primary and Fezekile Secondary School in the Eden and Central Karoo district, where lives of teachers and learners are at risk as the school fence is broken and missing in large section of the school. I so move, Chairperson.
Honourable members, the motion has been put. There is an
Objection.
Good.
Objection.
Then The motion will be printed on the order paper as there is an objection. The next motion is that again of Honorable Kamba Botja. Please, Honorable Kamba Botja, be reminded that the motions that you've submitted are also the ones that you are to propose now. Please proceed.
Thank you, House Chairperson. On behalf of the Economic Freedom Fighters, I move without notice that the House condemns the Western Cape Department of Health and the University of Cape Town for failing to suspend a professor who is alleged to have sexually violated a student at the university. In January this year, there was an incident of Usasazo High School in Khayelitsha Site B, where the principal of the school was refusing to give post-matric students their statements report because, I beg your pardon, sorry.
Honorable Kamba Botja, will you please return to the motion as submitted?
My apologies, House Chairperson. The House, we move without notice that the House condemns the Western Cape Department of Health and the University of Cape Town for failing to suspend a professor who is alleged to have sexually violated a student at the university. The professor in question is a joint employee of both the university and the department, and he is based in the medical department of university at Groote Schuur Hospital. During these dangerous times where women are subjected to all forms of abuse and rape, it is shocking that the institution and the department failed to suspend the professor in question pending the investigation. House Chairperson, in so doing, they have subjected the victims in a double punishment of being harassed and continue to face the perpetrator on a daily basis. EFF finds this shocking and is asking for those who are entrusted with public power to do what is right. I so move.
Thank you. The motion has been put. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No. The motion is therefore accepted. The motion will be has been accepted. Thank you. The next one is again a motion in the name of the Honourable Kama. Honourable Kama, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chair. On behalf of the ANC, I move a motion without notice that the House notes with concern the ongoing murders and spate of violent crime in the Western Cape, which included yet another mass murderer in Khayelitsha, a shooting incident that left 5 people injured in Dunefontein Road, Manenberg, and the murders of 12 people in Manenberg and Hanover Park in just 24 hours. Conveys sincere condolences to the Titus family who lost 3 family members in the shooting, wishes a speedy recovery to all the wounded in the Manenberg shooting, and calls for an integrated approach to creating community safety in the province, including the need to address the causative factors of crime and increasing the number of deployed LEAP officers to the gang-infested communities. I so move.
The motion has been put. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No. The motion is agreed to. The next one is a motion in the name of the Honourable Lekker. Honourable Lekker, are you online?
Yes, House Chairperson, I'm online, but I will let it pass.
Thank you. The next one is in the name of Honourable Windvogel.
Thank you, House Chairperson. On behalf of the ANC, I move without notice that the House notes with deep concern the disparities in the treatment of victims and perpetrators of alleged sexual misconduct in the provincial government, and notes further that a UCT professor, also an employee of the Western Cape government, that is facing rape allegations against a postgrad student in medicine and remains in his job while the victim has been suspended by the department, and notes further that the case of the UCT professors has followed the similar pattern to the case of Farrell Payne, who remains in his job despite facing serious charges of sexual misconduct against a junior colleague, while the victim is at home, and is similar to the case of a teacher at Tandokulu High in Mulberry, who remains in his job despite facing charges of sexual assaulting a learner at school, and condemns the institutionalization of GBV culture within the provincial government and calls for the immediate suspension of the professor. I so move.
The motion has been put. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice?
No objections.
No. Agreed to. The next one is a motion in the name of, I believe, Honorable Sayed.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. I move without notice that the House notes that despite the Education Department's wasting over R500,000 on the Wesley Newman witch hunt, the WCD has since offered Principal Newman a demotion after he appealed the decision of the Kangaroo Court to dismiss him. Notes further that following his appeal to the former MEC of Education, she gave Principal Newman an ultimatum, either to accept a demotion to head of the department at another school or the sanction of dismissal would stand. Further notes that Principal Newman was persecuted for protecting his learners from being exposed to COVID-19 as the WCD forced schools to reopen at the height of the COVID-19 peak, an instruction which the progressive principal failed to adhere to after he consulted with the parents and SGB of the school, rejects the former MEC's ultimatum and calls on the new MEC Mania to do the right thing and drop all the frivolous charges against Principal Wesley Newman. Thank you.
Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? Objection.
Yes, we object.
Object that it is moved without notice.
There are objections. The motion will be printed on the order paper. Honorable Mvimbi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I move a motion without notice that the House note with a great sense of sadness the bus crash that claimed the life of a 2-year-old toddler and left scores of others injured outside George on Saturday. Note further that the bus carrying 35 people, including a rugby team, staff, supporters, and family members, was traveling back to Vetted Reef close to Platinum Bay after playing rugby at NMMU Sarsfield near George, where it crashed down an embankment in the wilderness area. It is believed that they had apparently taken this road through the back of the wilderness to connect to the N2 as the Sarsfield Road, also known as Madiba Drive, has been closed due to flood damage that occurred in November 2021, thereby placing the blame on provincial and municipal authorities for the fatal crash. Wishes all the injured person a speedy and full recovery and convey sincerest condolences to the parents and family of the deceased 2-year-old toddler. I so move, Chairperson.
The motion has been put. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice?
Object.
Object that it is moved without notice. Objection.
I just get clear.
Sorry,
the
there's a-
members, I mean, we don't want to object to the motion, but they squeeze in a line that is just totally wrong.
Thank you, Honorable Mvimbi. Honorable Sayed.
Chair, I don't think you need to give reasons why you object. You must just say object or
Correct.
move with things.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we don't
Thank
need reasons here, Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
He's also
That's
tired.
the point of
You
order.
shouldn't do it easy in the future.
Thank you.
Come back from Brazil. We don't need many
Thank you,
reasons.
Sayed.
Thank you.
Honorable Sayed. Thank you for
Sit
it.
down.
Chair. Thank you. There are objections then?
To the kit.
Yes. The motion will be printed on the order paper. Thank you. The next motion is that in the name of Honorable Maran.
Thanks very much, Speaker, and good afternoon to everyone. Speaker, on behalf of the Congress movement, a motion without notice. This House notes that Africa Day was celebrated on May 25, 2022, under the theme that focuses on the importance of addressing malnutrition and food insecurity across the continent of Africa. It further notes that Africa Day was founded on 25th of May 1963 by the Organization of African Unity to celebrate and acknowledge the successes of the organization in the fight against colonialism and apartheid. Also note the month of May is recognized as a month to promote and uplift African unity and to recommit Africa to a common destiny in line with this year's theme, especially given the rapid increase in the cost of living globally. Recommits this House and the provincial government to put all efforts in place to cushion the poor from all walks of life from the devastating effects of the rising cost of living and poverty, and calls on the House to join efforts to curb the spread of Operation Dudula in the Western Cape and enhance the spirit of African unity. I so move.
Thank you. The motion has been put. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No. There's no objections, therefore agreed to. And the last motion is again in the name of the Honourable Sayed.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. I move on behalf of the African National Congress that the House notes and commends the newly established Oliver Tambo and Yusuf Dadoo Trust on Palestine and the projects it has launched to create solidarity links for the families of Palestinian political prisoners. Notes further that the Tambo Dadoo Palestine Legal Fund has identified the main project of family-to-family contact between families in South Africa and later elsewhere and families of Palestinian political prisoners. Calls on the members of this House and the members of the public in the Western Cape to reach out to the Trust to participate in this revolutionary act of solidarity, and condemns the continued atrocities of the apartheid Israeli regime, which includes the incarceration of approximately 5,000 male prisoners, about 100 female and even teenage boys. I so move.
Thank you. The motion has been put. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice?
Objection.
Objections? Yes, there is an objection. No interjections, please, Honourable Sayed. The motion will be printed on the order paper. That concludes motions without notice. Brings us to the last item. The Secretary will read the order of the day. And before
There's a hand raised, Chair. There is a hand, Chair.
Yes. Whose hand is that?
Chairperson, it's my hand. I'd like to know if I can rise on a motion without notice.
Sorry, did I miss that one, Honourable Bosman?
I think so, Chair.
Thank you. Please proceed then.
It's not on the order paper.
I'd like to move a motion without notice that the House notes that the ANC member of the legislature, Andile Lilly, has been convicted of incitement to murder and common assault in the Bellville Magistrates Court. And I'd like the House to further note that Member Lilly will be sentenced in August 2022.
Thank you, Honourable Bosman. The same rule that I've quoted earlier today, I believe, applies. So please, I rule you out of order. That concludes then motions without notice. And I call upon the Secretary to read the order of the day. Thank you very much. I will now be vacating the seat. I want to say thank you very much, honourable members, for your cooperation. I really enjoyed it. And I hope you will also have a fruitful remainder of the meeting. Thank you so much.
Consideration of report of the Budget Committee on the Division of Revenue Bill B6 2022 NCOP, ratification of final mandate.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Honorable members, there will be an opportunity for parties for a 3 minutes declaration, should the parties so wish. I now afford the opportunity to the ANC.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. On behalf, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Honorable Speaker? Sorry.
You are audible, Honorable Bimbi. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. On behalf of the African National Congress, I rise to support this bill. The ANC acknowledges and accepts the increased allocation for the provincial government of the Western Cape. The increased provincial equitable share will benefit the people of the Western Cape to alleviate the socio-economic issues that the province currently faces. With more provision made in the education sector, this will aid in alleviating unemployment as well as the challenge is currently faced by the Western Cape of having people sit out on academic year due to no placement. With an increase of 3.6% from 2021 to 2022 fiscal year, the provincial equitable share accounts to 77.45% of the provincial total receipts, while the provincial's own receipts have 3.57% decrease, amounting to 90.72 million. Local government conditional grants allocation have increased with a focus in infrastructure, which will contribute to employment creation, economic growth, and productivity in the province. The provincial government should stop protesting about budget cuts, especially on education, and acknowledge the increase if they want to alleviate these challenges. The equitable share formula is a work in progress, and we hope that the provincial government can cooperate with the national government in supplying constructive proposal in the development of the formula. The African National Congress support this bill. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Mvimbi. Honorable members, I now recognize the EFF.
Enkosi Somlomo, on behalf of Economic Freedom Fighters, we reject the Division of Revenue Bill, and we further do not have any declaration. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Makamba Pocha. I see the hand of the Deputy Chief Whip of the DA. Do you have a point?
Chair, my hand is up for the Democratic Alliance slot comes up, so that you just know which person is doing the declaration.
Oh, so you will be speaking on behalf of the DA?
Yes, hence my hand is raised for when the slot comes up. Thank you.
Thank you. You may lower your hand. I'll recognize that at the right time. Honorable members, I now recognize the Good Party. Before then,
Speaker, no declaration. Thank you.
No declaration. Thank you, Honorable. Thank you, Honorable August. I see the hand of the Honorable Deputy Chief Whip of the ANC.
Honorable Speaker, I rise on a point of order. I was going to rise at the commencement of the sitting, but then as the Honorable Speaker, you had left the seat and asked the Honorable Van der Westhuizen to chair. I'd just like to raise a concern. I mean, we've seen that the DA has issued a statement around the Honorable Speaker and the investigation. The Honorable Speaker has then gone to the media. I mean, I would just like to, my point of order is, would it not then be proper at least for Honorable Van der Westhuizen to continue chairing till the end of the sitting, given the current controversy that is surrounding things, just for the sake of the smoothness of the House, Honorable Speaker?
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable.
That is not relevant.
I was just trying to understand what is the point of order, and having listened, I did not find any reason to rise on such, because that is not a matter that really resonates with the rules, standing rules as we see them. So the point of order is thereby discarded. May I then request, I see there are also some other hands online. Honorable Maran.
Speaker, yeah, mine was also a point of order, Speaker. Just wanted to say those who are saying it's not relevant will tomorrow vote against you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Maran. I have no comment. That's not a point of order. May I see the hand of the Minister of Social Development. Is that a point of order, ma'am?
Sorry, Chairperson, Speaker, on the point of order, that's almost casting aspersions on members. So you're right, it must be disallowed. Thank you.
You are former Speaker.
Order, honorable members. I thought you missed me. May I just, as a matter of course, proceed with the business of the House? I don't see what we are dealing with here now. I do not want any further deliberations on this matter. There's no agenda called the Speaker here. So can I then proceed, please? We are in the middle of a serious business of the House, and can I allow the other parties to also, please, have the opportunity to express themselves?
Speaker.
What's your point of order, Honorable the Chief Whip, the Deputy Chief Whip of the ANC?
Honorable Speaker, the Honorable MEC of Social Development is out of order. There's no almost casting aspersions. You either cast aspersions or you don't cast aspersions.
Thank you, Honorable.
This chamber I've raised, and my points of order must be noted. There's a public discourse out there which is having an
You are not
impact
the teacher,
on
Honorable
governance,
Syed. Please sit
the
down.
visibility of this house. The DA wants to run away from those things.
Sit down, you are not a teacher.
And we'll sit on those
Please
benches.
take your seat, Honorable Syed. I think.
You are not the Speaker.
On a point of order.
Order, honorable members. I have made a ruling on this matter, and I thought you were rising on a different matter, and members have spoken, and they've been talking on the same matter, which is not before us, and I have expressed a decision on that matter as the presiding officer. Let us respect the presiding officer, and the decorum of this House can only be maintained by us respecting our rules. The Chief Whip of the DA, is it on the same matter, ma'am?
Speaker, yes, thank you. You have ruled. Can we continue with the serious business of the House?
Thank you, Madam Chief.
Speaker, mine is on another matter. Got nothing to do with you chairing or not chairing.
Order,
order
Honorable. Can I have one member speaking at the time? Honorable Dagmar, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, you may, I'm not sure whether you were following the procedures earlier, but you may have noticed that the Honourable House Chairperson made a ruling that before any member can raise a point of order, they need to cite in terms of which rule that point of order is being raised. I then pointed him, I indicated to him, you know, the provisions of Rule 66, and he then did respond in a manner that was not clear. I wonder if you, in your capacity as Speaker, could just clarify that, because nowhere in Rule 66 does it actually say you have to cite a rule. You just have to be compliant with 66 itself, obviously, and there are references there, as you know, Speaker, to, you know, issues of procedures, practice, operation of the House, a complaint of unparliamentary conduct, etc. So could you just clarify whether you share the understanding that it is not necessary for a member of this House to quote a specific rule in terms of which they are raising a point of order? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable the Leader of the Opposition. I was not presiding when this specific matter was dealt with, as you have related. I will, however, engage with the table staff, and I will be advised of the deliberations and, of course, consult Hansard, and the standing rules will be applied consistent with the standing rules itself. May I then
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you.
attend to it on those basis, so the next session will advise on those matters. May I please proceed, honorable members, with the ACDP, Honorable Christians?
Thank you, Speaker. The ACDP considered the Division of Revenue Bill cannot support this bill. Although there's an increase in the conditional grants and other additional funding, we have certain concerns. And the concerns are, ESCOM returning the infrastructure grant, the using of old data, census data, the data gaps experienced by Treasury, and also we are not sure if the Presidential Employment Initiative will go beyond 2 years, and that's why we cannot support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Christians. Honorable members, I now recognize the Freedom Front Plus, Honorable Murray.
Speaker, for the first time, I must agree with the previous speaker. I cannot see myself supporting this bill. The census was a disaster, complete disaster. And I don't think that this province has done justice to itself to determine exactly how many people is in this province so that we can get our equitable share, which will then accrue to this province. And I don't want to make a long speech. There will be enough time in future sessions to air my views on this. But this is a horrific, negligent behavior of both national and provincial not to make sure that there is an efficient census count having been taken. So I cannot support this.
Thank you, Honorable Murray. I now recognize Al-Jama, Honorable Brencase.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Al-Jama fully supports this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Brencase. Honorable members, I now recognize the TA. Honorable the Deputy Chief Whip of the TA.
Thank you, Speaker. The Budget Committee has examined this bill from all angles. While we do welcome the increase in the provincial equitable share allocated to the Western Cape, it is simply not enough to raise years of budget cuts. Whichever way you look at it, the Western Cape is still being shortchanged by national government. The increase in funding to the Western Cape should be seen in the context of cost of living increases. And Speaker, Member Vimbe is correct that the increase is 3.6%, but that is less than inflation reaching 5.9% year on year in March this year at the time the bill was received. The increase in funding suddenly seems much less notable, and it is now estimated that inflation might even become 8%. So let us not play with numbers. Speaker, we must also mention that the provincial equitable share is based on outdated census data from back in 2011, and with the state of the current census, the next decade will be based on inaccurate data again. Furthermore, the PES formula is not comprehensive enough, with issues such of huge importance in our society, such as gender-based violence and special needs education, receiving no allocation in the PES formula. Speaker, regarding provincial grants, all but one of the provincial conditional grant allocations will either be decreasing in percentage terms or increasing less than inflation over the MTF period, creating a risk for service delivery in key departments. The process through which these grants are allocated is also lacking in transparency, creating yet another opportunity for corruption and government inefficiency. The lack of innovation from National Treasury regarding grants is unacceptable, but unexpected from a national government that has shown little innovation across their departments. departments. We have the same grants being moved around and redistributed, but no new grants have been created for the new challenges we are facing regarding energy, technology, jobs. Even the outstanding quality of government in the Western Cape is not enough to paper over the cracks left by the lack of funding from National Treasury, meaning it is once again the citizens of the Western Cape who are being led down by national government. Speaker, for these reasons, the Democratic Alliance does not support this bill, and we request the House to support the ratification of this report. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable the Deputy Chief Whip of the TA. Honorable members, I have to, at this point, indicate that's the end of the declarations. In terms of the attendance in the House, we have about 30 members, 17 DA, 8 ANC, 1 EFF, 1 Good, 1 ACDP, 1 FF Plus, and 1 Al-Jama. That then constitute the quorum for the purposes of passing this particular, of adopting this particular bill. May I indicate to the honorable members that the question that is put before us is for the House to adopt the report of the Budget Committee on the Division of Revenue Bill, conferring authority on the Western Cape delegation in the National Council of Provinces not to support this bill, that this report be ratified and adopted. Are there any objections to the request of the committee?
Yes.
No.
None.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
I
No
think
objection.
I just want to put the question, those in favor of the report being adopted, please say aye.
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 And
Aye.
those,
Aye.
Too late.
you can say aye many times. And those not in favor of the report, please say no.
No.
I think the ayes have it. The report has thus been adopted as per the request not to support this bill. I'm going to indicate to the honorable members that the vote no will be recorded as such, and it has been noted. The report, therefore, of the Budget Committee on the Division of Revenue Bill has been adopted. Honorable members, it's been a great day. It's been a beautiful session, and unfortunately, so we have reached the end of the session, and that concludes the business of the day, and the House is thereby adjourned. Thank you very much.